Well, hello, everyone. On behalf of the Fort Mill Alliance, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's learning session. We are recording today's session, which will go up on the FMA's YouTube channel. If you know someone who couldn't make it here today who would benefit from hearing from our discussion, we ask you to please share the link with them when it's available. My name is Tim O'Farrell. I'm the General Manager here at the Fort Meade Alliance, and today I'm joined by Jen Munt, our Education and Workforce Director.
Thanks for the introduction, Tim. As many of you know, the FMA published a white paper in fall 2020 about the 5 top challenges in securing a cybersecurity IT workforce pipeline. We convened working groups this past spring, and then we held a public forum to discuss the findings of the paper and of our working groups. During the forum, we heard about the many existing programs and efforts to fill the cyber pipeline, as well as areas where gaps still exist. Our goal today is to foster ideas on where we might fill those gaps. First, though, we need to learn about existing efforts in the region. Our Cyber Pipeline Learning Series was created to address the continuing challenges industry and education face in creating meaningful pathways to careers in cybersecurity and IT. We kicked off this 3-part learning series in August with a session that was focused on work-based learning opportunities. Today, and in our final session, we're going to hear from practitioners about the work they are doing, the best practices they are implementing, and the ongoing challenges they face. Our session today focuses on inspiring the next generation of cyber workers and aims to answer the question, how do we ensure that students have sufficient access to teachers, mentors, guest speakers, etc., who can help them understand and aspire to the opportunities that are available?
Today, we'll hear from 3 organizations that have found success in inspiring students and young adults to pursue computer science, information technology, and cybersecurity fields. We're joined today by Justin Serota, the computer science resource teacher from K through 12, and the DODEA Cyber Launch Grant resource teacher for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Welcome, Justin. We have Jeanette Haupt, Speakers Bureau and School Partnership Manager for the National Security Agency's K through 12 Academic Outreach Office, Ben Marks, NSA Codebreaker Challenge Lead for the NSA, and Noel Dameron, Chair of the Networking Department at the Community College of Baltimore County. Welcome to all of you.
We're going to start with each of our panelists giving their brief elevator pitch about their programs, about the programs they're here to speak about today. And we're going to get started with Justin. Can you kick us off by telling us a bit about the various efforts AACPS has underway to inspire students to pursue computer science, IT, and cybersecurity?
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure. I could probably talk for an hour, but I'll try to keep it to a minute or two. In Anne Arundel County, we have over the past 4 years, especially, we've had a very intense push towards computer science and cybersecurity education. We went from having about 300 students enrolled in 2016 to having almost 4,000 students enrolled currently in this school year in computer science and cybersecurity courses. Most of our courses currently are introductory level. We have foundations of computer science, 2 AP courses, and several quarter modules and cybersecurity, Python, different kinds of courses like that. We also have students at our Centers for Applied Technology taking courses in IT specifically with Cisco, and most of those students will test for a range of different certifications that get them college and career ready. Our goal is to expand those. Obviously, we are really happy with the amount of students we have in these courses, but our goal is ultimately to make sure that every student has some computer science experience and at least gets to dabble. And then those students who want to pursue the careers, we want to make sure we have all of that, every opportunity possible for those students to succeed.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for the introduction. Next up, we're going to hear from Jeanette and Ben about the NSA's efforts.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Haupt. Thank you very much for having me on the panel today. I am from the K through 12 academic engagement. We provide free, that's a big word, free services to any nonprofit academic entity. That can be a school or organization that we can provide STEM or foreign language presentations, to classrooms or entities. We can provide school partnerships where we can support robotics or cyber patriots or any other clubs that are STEM or foreign language related. And lastly, we can provide judges for any of the competitions where a school needs any kind of judging competition that they have. All of this is provided by NSA employees, which is fantastic because it gets our employees out into the classroom or the organizations to let them know that the opportunities are there and across all the STEM fields. And we get to do it from a lot of diversity, so we can get a lot of people involved so that anybody in diverse demographics can also find out that you can be an engineer or a computer scientist within the demographic that you're speaking of. Also, NSA provides many opportunities for students, their student programs, be it the high school work study or internships or co-ops, which are all readily available. And I've provided Jen all of those links. So she wants to put that and our link of how to request anything from K through 12. You'll be able to contact us then. Thank you. And I pass it to Ben.
Yeah, and NSA also hosts the Codebreaker Challenge. The goal of the Codebreaker Challenge is to take a scenario where NSA would be involved, so a realistic story, and break it into a series of technical tasks so that we can give students a real-world taste of the technical work we're doing inside of NSA. The goal there is to expose the students to the skills we're trying to hire for, but also get them really excited about the work that we do, and hopefully they apply and join the cyber workforce in one way or another.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks to both of you. Next up, we're going to hear from Noel about CCBC's program.
Yes, I'm involved with the CCBC program in cybersecurity. Currently, we have around 500 students in our program, and we offer courses for students to receive their Associate of Applied Science degree in cybersecurity, networking, or digital forensics. And we are teaching these courses across our campuses in Baltimore County, mainly in the Essex, Catonsville, and Owings Mills campuses. About 18% of our students move on to four-year schools, and the remainder go out into the cyber and computer science industry. We started our program as an information assurance program back in 2008, and we've been moving forward since that time and steadily growing. And so we've been very, very happy with the students we have, and we follow them as they get out into industry, and it's really very, very pleasing, very rewarding to see what they are doing and how far they've gone in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. It's been impressive about your growth and your impact in the region. So we appreciate it, and we appreciate having the panelists with us today. So we have a number of questions for the panel about the successes and challenges you've faced along the way. I also want to invite the attendees to submit questions via the Q&A button down at the bottom. It should be at the bottom of your screen. Jen's going to be monitoring the Q&A, and we'll be sure to address some of the questions towards the end. We want to start off with the first question for each of the panelists. Could you start off about what types of programs, interactions, etc., you found the most effective in inspiring students to join this cyber workforce? And I'd like to throw it off maybe to you, Ben, with your Codebreaker experience first.
Sure. So, I think the sorts of programs that we found to be most effective are the ones that let the students do and get the students, let them sink their teeth into something and get their hands dirty. We like programs that are hands-on and cool so that the students can get firsthand experience. They're not just listening or reading in a textbook, but really give them a binary and have them reverse engineering. And that's a whole lot more instructive, and the learning sticks a lot better as a result of them having to actually go through and work through these problems.
Okay, great. No, what about you? You're a more immediate workforce. They're coming to you to be ready to go into these jobs, or so what are you doing to get them excited about these cyber opportunities?
Yeah, the thing we try to do is to, in all of our courses, to do as much hands-on with the students as possible, so they get to see the real world of cybersecurity. And also, we like to do programs like Capture the Flag, and they get an in-depth look, for instance, at Cisco networking. They build their own networks. And so that's really the push we have to make sure that they have a true understanding, because students who come to us, quite frankly, don't really fully understand what cybersecurity is all about and what the business is like out there. So we have many other ways with tech clubs and that sort of thing that we try and make sure that they understand where they can go in this fascinating world of cyber.
But Justin, I'll turn it over to you. You're reaching students much younger. Some that they're very good native technologists. They're attached to the phone, as we talked about a little bit earlier. So how do you get them to translate that? And what kind of interactions are you doing to translate that, to get them excited about these fields?
Well, I'll start there by actually rewinding. So when I first started teaching computer science, and anybody here who's taken, who took any kind of computer science in high school, college, it started with generally like AP Computer Science A, object-oriented programming, right? It was like the first taste for a lot of students, and there's a very small percentage of students who like that right away, right? And finding the missing semicolon and the missing parenthesis and brace and that kind of thing is not the way to get kids interested and hooked. So what we want to focus on really is providing that global impact piece, right? And giving them that context. So we spend a lot of time in our introductory courses really hammering that home, that talking about digital technology and the impacts of digital technology on the world and on social issues and all those things that are in the news now. It's very easy to pull articles from yesterday and pull that into a computer science lesson or a cybersecurity lesson. So really focus on that impact so they get a good view of how this impacts and maybe what their role could be in there. I like to echo Noel's and Ben's comments about hands-on. We definitely want to do hands-on, get kids moving around as much as possible, working together and collaborating. As I'm sure everybody here knows, in these fields, it's not it's not that stereotypical guy in mom's basement doing all this work. These are teams of people, and so we do a lot of collaboration. And so when we run a course, a computer science course or an extracurricular activity, we spend a lot of time in groups and collaborating and discussing and brainstorming.
So definitely the interactive approach. Well, Jeanette, you represent the workforce of what all the studies culminate and the folks that are practicing it every day. What type of interactions are you seeing that inspire students to say, I want to come work for your organization?
Well, I was lucky that I was able to reach out to the cyber development programs. We have multiple ones at the agency, and they were able to tell me what they have. And it really goes from a variety from simple to really complex. And what I mean simple is, one of them said their participants loved the word of mouth, right? Word of mouth that the development program is working, and it really is exciting to be in because it guides you and it gives you that mentorship when you're first starting out. So, I mean, that's great for the agency if they can get out there and get to the right platforms and people. And then we go to the, it's very easy to hire someone that, and I say that most complex is when you go to if you're already certified, right? You already have a certification, or if you've already done the Capture the Flag or the CISA President's Cup or all these other competitions that are out there. And I know there is a lack of ability in many high schools and even middle schools to get engaged with those, but we're always saying, if you find them, get in them, right? Just start getting involved with all that. And most of them are free. I know that you probably have to be usually initiated by a parent or a school, but those clubs and those, armed forces, cyber weeks, or anything cyber related, you can just start dabbling and you just keep building that base up and up and up. And then you, like I said, end up at some of those potential certifications before you even apply, which is a no-brainer. That's inspired them to go right into the workforce, not necessarily NSA, but anywhere, right? Because those levels of knowledge is there, but it's growing. So,
well, let me stay with you, Jeanette, for the start of this next question for the panel. You talked about how you're interacting and how you're developing the workforce, but let's talk about those that we should be targeting and bringing into those efforts, those non-traditional students. What type of efforts and where are you finding the non-traditional students? Not the ones that are at the already on that CSIT path at all the great universities and community colleges. What are you doing there?
Well, it was interesting that the development program manager was like, what do you mean by non-traditional? And I kind of said, well, that's their words. But what he had said is he just likes to say diverse. And when he says diverse, he does say community college, but then he also just says, you might even pick up someone who used to do another field, right? It doesn't even have to be a young person. I know we're always shooting for the young person, but we're finding out today that many other career fields are very involved and use cyber basics. And so when you say non-traditional, you might realize that you're in your 30s and all of a sudden you want to move into a cyber career. So you'd love to hit the young group because they're going to build their knowledge. But if you don't have that, with their community college and then workforce places where they're going into and finding out that they're very capable of doing cyber careers. And they also just said many of the different schools like the HCBU, the historically Black colleges and other things where they just may not have heard the opportunities. And it truly is just enlightenment. You know, you can do this, right? So many opportunities.
Non-traditional is a amorphous word, but currently, you know, latest research says there's about 22,000 cybersecurity jobs open just in Maryland alone.
Yeah.
So we're not going to solve it through our typical math and computer science through the university level. So it's always interesting to hear how other people are being found in those non-traditional ways. So like Ben, I mean, you run a coding challenge. I'm sure not everybody in that program looks like a high science student, right? So how are you bringing those people to some of the efforts that you do?
Yeah, so we've definitely been making a very intentional effort to try to make the Codebreaker Challenge more accessible to students across the country. And we know that a lot of participants in the past have been at schools where they're doing it as part of a club, and they know lots of folks doing Codebreaker. One of the things we piloted this year that's actually gone really well is something we're calling the Codebreaker Community of Practice, where we're trying to build a community around all of the participants doing the challenge, not just sort of on a post-school basis. So we actually have a Discord chat room that we invite all of the Codebreaker participants to join when they sign up for the challenge. And it's been really great to see the interaction between different students in that chat room. Presumably most of them are going to different schools, but we've got high schoolers asking, you know, what college should I go to? We have folks saying, I'm stuck on task 2, can someone give me a nudge? And I think that's a real way to, especially for students at colleges that don't have these super robust, strong clubs or programs, right? If you're the one student and you don't know anyone else doing Codebreaker, this is a community that can help you sort of get up to speed. And I think that's, we're still too early to know if that's going to translate into, you know, higher levels of participation at some of these HBCUs and HSIs and non-traditional folks in the technical workforce. But I think it definitely is keeping folks engaged for longer than they would have otherwise if they were doing it on their own.
I just wanted to jump in and say something about non-traditional students. I will say, when folks think about recruiting students and sort of the age group, the population, I think a lot of people imagine students who are pursuing a bachelor's degree, who are in the traditional college experience of living on campus and attending classes, et cetera. And for many years now, it has been the case that the college population, non-traditional students who are not in that model, their numbers are much, much higher than students in the traditional model. And so I think that there is an opportunity now for folks to start thinking, one, younger. We're seeing that, and Justin, I think you can speak to that. But then two, also students who are either getting experience or education through pathways that we don't typically imagine when we think about how we are inspiring students and which students we're working with.
That's a great point. And Noel, you have a population that comes to you for many different reasons, and you have this opportunity. So, you know, what are you doing in bringing a broader poll to this challenge?
Well, we've been doing quite a bit of advertising as far as our program is concerned. And I'm really pleased with the number of people who are coming to us who want to change careers. Many of them older people who say, it's time for me to make a change. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. We're also seeing quite a few people from the military coming and joining us and wanting to move on with a career or frankly make a career change. In the younger students, what we've been doing over a number of years before COVID, we would go and visit the high schools, junior high schools, talk with these students, and not just the students interested in science, open it to everyone and show them what we do and what the career paths are in cyber. So we bring students from English courses, whatever, to the program to see what we do. The other thing that has really made me very happy is that we are hoping to host about 50 students for 3 of their competitions here at CCBC, because they've had a problem with being able to connect to the outside world from BCPS. And the nice part about that is many of those are obviously very interested in cyber, but they have friends and other people that we can contact and spread the information through these students as to what they can expect in the cyber world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that connection, which is perfect for you, Justin. And a segue to you. You have students that are forming their future. They're looking for what their path would be. They're the obvious students that are on the path, but let's talk about how you're reaching beyond that.
Yeah, so the key part there, actually, before I answer that, I'll say, when I was teaching, I had a counselor come and put a student in my class, and her reasoning was, oh, he's kind of dorky and he likes playing video games, so I thought he'd be good for your computer science class. And so that kind of goes to illustrate maybe it's not the kids who are the problem, it's the adults. And so we have a big campaign, a big part of what I'm trying to do is to get around to all the adults and counselors and administrators and make them realize that this is for everybody, not just for the white nation boys anymore. It's for everybody. And so what we've done in the county and here at Meade High School is open up these courses, and more or less it's not a requirement, but I think about 50% of the freshman population are taking a computer science course, and so it's everybody in every class. It's it looks like a sample of Meade High School. So the key part there is just opening it up to everybody, and it's really not the students who are separating themselves; it's the adults, and so we have to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity.
I've noticed a theme with all 4 of you using phrases like exposure and awareness, and that's a big part of it, obviously, because you have to reach people who traditionally don't receive these messages. But when you're doing that, you're also solving a challenge. What is the biggest challenge that you run into trying to help people understand this opportunity? And Noel, I'm going to start with you with this one. You have a big pool at your school, and you talk to them, and they have their own preconceptions, right? Exactly. How are you overcoming those challenges, and what are they?
The challenge is really, there are several. One is that they really don't fully understand what the field of cybersecurity is all about, what you do. So we start from the very beginning when they come in the door to expose them through our tech club or through visits from our employer partners to help show them what's available out there. We also make sure that they understand that cybersecurity is throughout the entire employment world. No matter where you work, you're going to deal with cybersecurity in some form or another. So make sure that you understand that. Also, it's quite a nice incentive for them to realize that there are many jobs available out there. And for our students, they have to be entry-level jobs, most of them. And but it's a nice path to a good career, a rewarding career, and one, quite frankly, that's monetarily quite rewarding at this time. So those are the things that we try and get across to them, just a general understanding, because students get so siloed in studying their courses and all, they're focused. We try and help them come away from that a little bit and say, here's what the world of cyber is about.
Okay. But Jeanette, with your efforts, what are you running into as one of the biggest obstacles for people to see this as a path for them, an opportunity, a future?
The biggest challenge we're having, and that the development programs are having, is in the nature of our work. They're going to say, what project am I going to work on, right? And we immediately go like, well, you're going to look at bits, and you're going to analyze this, and you're going to save the nation, and you're going to protect networks. And they're like, what am I going to work on? Am I going to like build like a, merchant payment system? Or, no. What am I going to do? And so to say you'll do cool stuff, I mean, that's really hard for the kids to accept, because I think when they think of a traditional job, they go, I know what I'm going to do before I walk in the door. And there's just so many opportunities at NSA, particularly, or any place, but just that they aren't really sure where they're going to end up, because from the HR to the actual placement, you don't really know, and they sometimes get a choice because of what they choose, but as an entry level, and you don't know exactly what they're going to work on. So if that makes sense, it's the classified nature of our work that makes it super hard to attract them from someplace else where they know exactly what they're going to do in cyber.
I can completely see how that could be an obstacle, and there's also the fact that as I'm starting with you, what do you mean I have to do? I'm smarter than that. I have to do more than that too as well. So you're battling the traditional challenges as well as your own security shield. But Ben, you probably have, when you say code breaking, that automatically speaks to a very select group of folks, but they aren't all the people that you need to solve the problems you have. So what are the challenges that you're seeing, and how are you tackling those?
Yeah, I mean, Jeanette really took a lot of the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say the students ask, what am I going to do? And we can't tell them. I think, with Codebreaker, one of our big goals is to try to demystify the technical work at NSA. Even if we can't share specifics of what you would be working on, we can show you what it might be like. And if there's something in the challenge that you enjoy, then that can help you guide where you get placed to land at a good spot for you. The other sort of challenge that I think we have with helping students understand, though, is just that the cybersecurity field evolves really quickly. And so sometimes when you're talking with middle schoolers and they say, well, what would I do at NSA? I mean, I don't know what you would do at NSA 10 years from now. That could look very different. And so the field moves fast.
That should be a selling point, but they can't grasp that. As a sixth grader, you're like, that doesn't register. So Justin, that's why we turn to you. You've got to be innovative. I love that you're almost creating an expectation that every student should participate in the programs you're creating, but you still have to get them to actively participate. So
Exactly.
what does that look like in the schools?
Well, so number one, I mean, nothing replaces a good teacher with good curriculum. I mean, nothing. And so, it's great having, we'll talk about, internships and external opportunities, but nothing replaces day-to-day having a well-trained instructor with good engaging curriculum in there. But to add to what, Ben and Jeanette said, giving students those, opportunities outside of the classroom. For example, we had, when we were virtual learning, we had our friends from US Cyber Command, Booz Allen, come and run some, do some Q&A sessions with us, and having the students be able to ask questions. Now, most of those questions couldn't be answered. The answer was always, it's really cool. What I'm doing right now is really cool. That's all I can say. But that's great, and the kids really enjoy that. So, there's only so much that students can envision when they're, either virtual learning, looking at a screen, or in a classroom. It's really difficult to show them what the experience of industry life is like. So another great thing is, once we get back to some sense of normalcy, hopefully, we can get students out and get them in offices, get them meeting people in person, and seeing what life is like for the average person in the industry.
Tim, can I just add one more thing to that?
Please.
We find out a lot, and I'm sure you all, that the students say, like, I know how to use technology. Hello, like I got Instagram. I know how to use my phone. I can program my parents and my grandparents' iPads. And we're like, then we give them our cyber safety talk, and we talk about the Googles and what they can get access to, and reverse engineering, all this stuff. And they go, they're users. but they think they know cybersecurity. Those two don't connect. They're not the same thing. Being a user of technology and protecting technology is completely different. So the challenge is, it's not a field that I need to go into. I know way more than my parents and my grandparents, so I got it. And does that make sense? That it's total, a user and protection and cybersecurity concepts completely different.
Absolutely. It absolutely makes sense because, they use TikTok and all these other devices and they can do amazing things with them, but they're not realizing what all that means behind the scenes and what they're trading and what they're exposing themselves to. So when you're probably aware that you've got a little bit of mystery, Justin, you touched on, sometimes mystery is a good sales pitch, right? I really can't tell you what I do, but it's really cool. So if you get to come behind the door, you're part of a cool club, right? You get to play with the best, latest and greatest tools. But at the same time, having them vision that is probably more important, especially in the younger years. So I want to talk a little bit about the value of these jobs, and let's forget the salary aspect to it, because we do know, I often joke with my friends whose sons and daughters are exploring college careers about, I'm not sure if they want to do it. They're thinking something about computers, and I go, they go into computers or language, that's going to be like the NBA draft if they stay in the Fort Meade area, because everybody's going to be after you if you're clearable. So forget about, those other aspirations. And I know, Justin, you were quite the basketball player, but if you have those skills, you create this opportunity. And what are those values for you? Like, let's talk about, I heard people say they don't see themselves in these roles, but help people explain what it means to be in your fields. And Noel, you're talking to people who are going to come right into it in the next few months to few years. Why don't you share what you tell about that story as to why I should be a cyber person?
That's a good point. And what we try and do in that area is to expose the students to what the positions really are out there in industry. We have the tech club that meets. We have the Women in Technology group that meets on a regular basis, because we're trying to encourage more women to come into the cybersecurity world. But this allows our students to see what type of jobs are out there, where they might fit in, to get them to ask questions, and just realize what is out there for them, so that they can move into that world. And it's been very, very successful, I think, because I know, just very briefly, from our tech club meeting yesterday, last night when I was holding my office hours for my students, they came on and asked questions about that tech club meeting that they were in, specific questions about jobs that this person talked about, what they're doing. So it seems like to me, the more we expose them to what is really out there, they can see where they might fit.
Well, Justin, I want to kick it over to you next then. So what are you telling them about these fields that shows the value of why they need to spend their time and their effort? Because some of the classes they're more rigorous than some of the others.
Yes, absolutely. And especially as they move forward. I mean, the intro classes aren't, are there to get them hooked. And then, of course, as they move forward, we don't lie to them about what they're getting into. The first question I tend to like to ask kids and when I'm presenting to them is, who here likes money? And that's one of the things that we kind of start with. You're certainly not going to starve if you're going into any kind of, technology field like this. So that's one of the things we start with. But then also, one of the pitches that we all make as a computer science team in Anne Arundel County is it's not so much about where you can go. It's also about the fact that it doesn't limit you to do whatever you want, right? So it's, if you major in one thing, that might limit you in terms of the kinds of careers that you can take. But if you're going into cybersecurity and technology, there really isn't much that you can't do with that. You can always branch out to other places. You can always combine it with other topics. You can combine it with chemistry and biology and engineering and literature even, right? There's all kinds of things you can do with it. So that's one of the biggest sells I think we have to kids, is that maybe you don't see yourself as a super technical person, but there is something in it for you. But we also, again, bringing in folks with our proximity to so many amazing organizations, bringing in those folks on a regular basis to have them talk about their jobs and about their past, and having kids, link that up. That's also a huge thing. You can see the kids' eyes literally light up.
Well, I want to flip the question slightly to you, Jeanette and Ben, and that is, what do you want people to know about the fields that you guys are in that they don't know and that they should know that your fields provide?
I'll go first because an answer popped into my head. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I would want people to know is that they can come work at NSA, and it's not just the crazy hackers who roll out of bed and like are typing on the way, like while they're brushing their teeth. Right? I think there's a misconception. People see NSA in the movies and they think that only whoever works there must be far smarter than I am, must have far more schooling than I have, and must be far better at CS than I am. And the reality is that really, like, we need everyone from all these different backgrounds. And so wherever you're at, like, we'll meet you there. And I think that would be the biggest thing that I want people to take away, is that whatever your background is, like, don't limit yourself.
Jeanette?
It probably comes back to another piece of the challenge puzzle, is that you can't really say the impact that you're going to have on the mission. NSA mission comes from the cyber, the offense and the defense, right? We do both of them at the agency. So if you're talking about one side or the other, whether you're defending the networks that really protect everything, which is the warfighter, down to, the decisions that we pass off to the White House and government officials, to the other side of the offense, we do both. And then you say, wow, I did that. You can't tell someone right now what you do, because we can't say that. So that's a little hard to say. You will go home with this huge accomplishment. You can't tell anybody, and you can't talk to CNN, and you can't, but it's this intrinsic value of, you do not know what you could have, what you did today as a team or whatever, that really was national security based. And that's our role. That's what we are there for in the cyber field. So if you have that drive to really take on that federal mission, and we ask our panelists all the time when people ask, well, I want to work for Google and I can make $250,000. You ain't going to do that at the agency. But that feeling of supporting the mission. And when you hit that topic and that subject that you do, hands down, the money does not matter. And everybody says it is the value of the work and the impact on the mission. Sorry to be so cheerleadery, but it really, I hear that from my cyber people all the time.
Our members, many of the support your mission and industry, have the same sentiments over and over and over again about the value. I have a question for you. All four of you are actively pursuing students and folks to look at these fields or your organizations, and you're bringing them, trying to bring them in. What should we be looking at as a community? Like, is there efforts, or is there focuses or structure that perhaps we should be doing to support your efforts? Like, I would love the community to do more of X. If they did more of X, our job would be easier. And what would that be? So, Justin, I'll start with you because you reach them first.
Teachers, and we need instructors. It's a nationwide issue. I'm sure everybody is aware. But we really need strong instructors. We're very lucky. We have a great partners at the state, MSTE and Maryland Center for Computing Education, that provide us with a lot of teacher professional development. So we've been able to take a lot of teachers who don't have much experience in the field, get them trained to teach the courses, which has been absolute godsend. Has been has had a huge impact on all schools in Maryland, especially in Anne Arundel County here. But we need more folks who are interested in being instructors.
That is something we identified in the CS and IT white paper. So I'll turn to you, Ben. What do we need to be doing more? What could be done more to help make your efforts more successful?
I mean, I think with Codebreaker Challenge specifically, a lot of the participation is based on word of mouth. So what I would say is tell your friends about Codebreaker Challenge and have them try it out and see if they have fun. I think more broadly, for building a larger pipeline of folks in the cyber field, just sharing excitement about the field from whatever angle you're coming to it in can be really impactful for students. Giving them a role model to look up to, a way that they can get into the field, and showing them that it's fun. With Codebreaker or whatever else it happens to be.
If I could just jump in there real quick again,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I wanted to add, of course, we need the instructors, but yeah, having volunteers at elementary, middle, high school level come in on a regular, semi-regular basis and help with help run different clubs. Also a huge impact. Those are things, kids forget about what happens in the classroom. They really don't forget about those extracurricular activities. That kind of thing really sticks with them.
All right. And Noel, what do we need to do? What should the community be doing more to support your efforts?
Again, I have to echo Justin's words. Instructors for us, it's really a challenge. We've built a nice team over the years. And again, it's difficult to do because obviously these people can make a lot more money in the real world of cyber than in just teaching cyber. We have a good group together, but I'm facing right now some retirements. So I'm going to have to do quite a bit of recruiting. And also, we've been very fortunate. We have some people from NSA who are adjuncts and people who worked in the industry that will come and teach for us as adjuncts. But both areas, I'm going to need more people because we're still growing, even because of the COVID backlash, so to speak. Our program is still growing, and I need very good teachers to teach these people.
Jeanette, do you?
I would say that the teachers are always our prime people, but from a marketing and exposure situation, COVID was horrible, but our K through 12 program actually expanded nationally by going virtual. Before we really stuck in our area, our backyard, Anne Arundel, the DMV, right? And we did that in person, which is fantastic, and I totally miss it. But now we are getting requests, and the model for our program is we're getting it across the nation. So we'll get a request, and I just keep saying, this is here for you, the educators, to get that free, I call it free, and it is free, NSA professional to come out, and it's across the board. It doesn't always have to be cyber, but just into that field. And we all know that 4th and 5th and 6th grade is that base, right? Right at the beginning. You don't just go for the seniors. You start sparking them. That's what our mission is, that 4th and 5th, the lower grades. And you're like, cyber, that's totally cool. Again, you spark it and you build, but they don't get that spark, and across the nation. So we're, again, if any teacher knows about us in Montana or anywhere, Tennessee, wherever it might be, that as long as they have at this point some platform that we can provide for them, we can get them engaged in some kind of cyber talk or cyber program. And maybe we can keep building on that. And all of a sudden, these kids are now in a Cyber Patriots program by the time we have that hook in them. So just marketing and let them know that we're here to help them get those students engaged and put them down that path that we would love to see them go to and capable. And the last thing is, Codebreaker has many levels, and we have kids that complete those highest levels, and that's fantastic. But not everybody's going to do that. But even if they can get to some levels, they get some confidence and excitement from it. So we want, as Ben said, we don't just want to say we want the only person that's going to graduate, the program, and we're going to go after them like a superstar. Everybody's a superstar if you just try it and get excited about the program. So that's both ends of the scale.
Yeah, just got to take that first step sometimes, and then you don't know you like it. And it's interesting, you both touched on the pandemic. Noel, you spoke to it about how it's creating a teacher challenge, and Jeanette, you've talked about it's kind of forced you to open up to these virtual tools that have expanded it. We are facing we've been in a workforce shortage for many years. the pandemic, the last numbers I heard were we had about 1 million, just over 1 million people exiting the workforce a year going into the pandemic. And now it's about 3 million and 5 million in the last 2 years. So it is accelerating that. So the discussions and the ways to solve and target and reach more people to bring into this challenge, into this field is a huge challenge. One here at the Fort Meade Alliance that we take very seriously. And so we really do appreciate your time spending this last 45, 50 minutes with us, because it's really important that we start trying to just take those first steps, Jeanette, like you said, just try it, but take these first steps to really connect you guys with the marketplace. I just got a note.
It looks like Marie may have some questions.
Okay, I can't see the questions.
Nor do I read them.
Marie, maybe you can put them into the chat. Okay, we have time for this question. How are you focusing on bringing diversity but still being inclusive of those traditional folks? So how do you bring in a more diverse force and balance that with the more traditional workforce? Let me start with you, Jeanette.
Sorry, I was reading the question. So what I love about our program is we don't cherry pick where we go. Any place, any demographic, any school, any entity can come in and ask us. And so when they come in, we are very lucky to have an employee resource group that we can utilize that looks like that demographic that they come in. So it's very exciting for the students. And then once they, again, feel that inclusion, and I mean inclusion into the group, that they can be in this STEM related field, I think that really helps us bring in both, because it's who's going to do it anyway, and then people again who had no idea that it's capable, and we just again exposure to the options that are out there for them. Even in high school work study programs, we're working really hard to do different programs, on-ramp 2 programs, all these other things, and they're very much focused on the diverse population out there.
Well, Noel, what is the community college doing?
Well, I think we're very fortunate. We naturally right now tend to get a very diverse group of people who are interested in coming into the school in general. If you look at our population, we're highly diverse. And so we've been very fortunate in that area. And obviously we're reaching out to all types of groups and people in the community to let them know that we're here and that we want to support them and be part of this program. So I've been very, very happy with that, and the numbers are quite impressive.
When you talk about numbers, do you have data on any areas that you want to do more focus on, or do you that drive what you're focusing?
The area we're pushing really very hard right now is to bring more women into technology, and that's why we have the Women in Technology clubs meeting, and we're really trying very, very hard to increase that, not only to get them into the program, but we find that over the past years, once the women will come into the technology program, they don't stay. And so we have to focus on that to make sure that they're welcome, they know they're part of it. And yes, it's still a male-dominated field, but that needs to change.
Well, Justin, at the schools, you too have a very diverse population. What are you doing to bring more of them into these fields, and what kind of data is pointing you to groups to target? Yeah,
so we definitely start. I mean, we have the same offerings at all the schools for number one, and we have very well trained teachers at all the schools. And then what's really good about especially the intro courses is that there's a lot of variability and a lot of room for creativity. So that allows students to really, express themselves and take their knowledge and their subculture and their all their beliefs and everything, and be able to plug that into the course that they take. In terms of data, our biggest gap in terms of underrepresented students is women. Just like Noel said, we're at 60-40 right now in our upper level courses, which is a lot better than we were 5 years ago. But we wanted to match, we wanted to be at the 50.5, 49.5 that we are in the county. So.
All right. I see, Ben, you're shaking your head too. You're probably seeing some of the same challenges in the Codebreaker program.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing with Codebreaker is that for many of the students in the Discord channel or in the challenge, like, I have no idea what their background is, what their age is, gender, ethnicity. It's really, when we try to increase accessibility of the challenge for folks, that increases accessibility for everyone. And so everybody benefits from this community of practice. It's not like we're focusing on diversity at the expense of anything. This is a benefit to the whole group as a whole. So, but we certainly try to make sure that, for instance, in our interactions with students, we're emphasizing that when not trying to use things like "Hey guys" in the chat instead of saying "Hey folks." We're trying to be gender inclusive and inclusive of everyone and their backgrounds.
Well, if you want to reach a younger audience, you have to be really, really focused, hyper-focused and sensitive to that, because that's what they want to see, and they are who we want to attract. So we're up against the hour. I really couldn't thank the four of you enough for your time today. You took your lunch break and you spent it with us and our audience, and we'll be sharing this. Again, if you have a friend that would have liked to have joined us today that wasn't able to, this will be on the FMA YouTube channel, and we'll be cutting and splicing it up throughout our social media channels. So to all four of you, thank you. To those who attended today, thank you for your time. Our next learning session is devoted to best practices for recruiting and training a diverse workforce, which is where we ended up on that conversation just today. It's going to take place Friday, November 12th at 2 p.m. We hope you can join us then, and look for some marketing on that as well. And then on the screen now, you see some other upcoming events. Again, thank you all. Thank you to our panelists, and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.